Remember that Flint Water Crisis, the changing of the source of water in Flint, Michigan for financial reasons, which led to lead-tainted water, an absolute and total disaster. Couldn't drink it, weren't able to shower with it for a long time. This is still an issue. This is still going on. People's homes now, as we've previously reported, are being foreclosed upon because of failure to pay for their lead-tainted water. We now have learned that Michigan Attorney General Bill Schuette, I really don't know how he pronounces his last name. Anyway, the Michigan Attorney General has charged 5 water officials, including a member of Republican Governor Rick Snyder's cabinet and a former emergency manager, with manslaughter related to their alleged failure to act in the Flint water crisis. This is 5 individuals whose manslaughter charges are connected to the death of Robert Skidmore, who died in December of 2015. That's how long this has been going on, because of the Legionnaire's disease outbreak caused by the tainted water. On paper, involuntary manslaughter is a felony punishable by up to 15 years in prison and/or, that key and/or, a $7,500 fine. But don't get your hopes up, Pat. Pat's already writing down, waiting for the 15 years in prison. Don't get your hopes up about that, Pat. This is one of those situations where we're telling you the maximum possible penalty. I don't expect anybody to end up spending 15 years in prison for this. Although this is starting to rise, Pat, towards the Republican Governor Rick Snyder, who we still are sort of unsure how far implicated he was in this.
Rise like the water evaporating. You know, it's good to see that people in positions of power are actually going to face charges for this. You rarely see that.
Well, the counter from some is, David, listen, these were bureaucratic mistakes. This doesn't warrant criminal charges. There were mistakes, but there wasn't real criminal negligence or intent to hurt anybody. Not really true from the facts on the ground. I mean, one of the individuals here was aware of the Legionnaire's outbreak in early 2015. It took nearly a year for the public to be notified about that. That speaks to intent to deceive.
Right, and there certainly wasn't any malice here, but if there was malice, then that wouldn't be manslaughter, that would be murder.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, and when you could actually make the case that if it is as bad as it's been reported, manslaughter is not a stiff enough penalty. And documents that have been obtained indicate that at least one of the individuals involved here, quote, willfully disregarded the deadly nature of the Legionnaire's disease outbreak, later saying, we can't save everyone, and hey, everyone's got to die of something. That sounds straight up
somehow, you know?
That sounds straight up depraved.
Yeah.
And I always hesitate to say, oh, someone is evil or an institution is evil. It's often, sort of lack of empowerment and indifference. But that straight up sounds like depravity. And this relates to a broader issue of infrastructure in our country. We've been talking for a while, Pat, about how infrastructure is a disaster and we need to be talking more loudly about infrastructure. But also, when Donald Trump talks about infrastructure, it's not this panacea that's going to make everything great. Trump's talking about infrastructure specifically with a plan to give cronyistic handouts to his friends and donors. It is not going to be the rescue of infrastructure. It's going to be a way to do some projects by enriching Trump's friends.
It's like bringing coal jobs back to West Virginia and privatizing air traffic control.
It's something that at the micro level, some people will be happy about, but big picture is by and large missing the systemic problems that we're dealing with in our country. It's pathetic and it's embarrassing, but I guess the good news here, let's try to focus on the silver lining, phrase of the decade. There are charges that have been brought, and now we will see if we are starting to get some justice for the people of Flint, Michigan.